Oh, welcome.
Welcome,
Everyone.
Hey, hello, everyone. I'm going to start the recording. My name is Wendy Camisar, Instructor and Research Specialist at the Howard County Library System Central Branch. Thank you for joining us today for Way to Go, a 6-week series presented by our partners at the Howard County Health Department and Giant Food. Please be aware that closed captioning for today is provided as a courtesy by Zoom and may contain some errors. By hovering at the bottom of your screen, you will see the CC button and you can toggle that to turn on or off the captions. Also, if you have any questions during the session, please type them in the chat box below. We are joined once again by Melanie Burdick. Melanie is a registered dietitian, a licensed dietitian nutritionist, a certified diabetes care and education specialist, a certified specialist in obesity and weight management, and a certified personal trainer. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Dietetics from Eastern Michigan University and a Master of Science in Applied Nutrition from the University of New England. She believes in practical steps to improving health and wellness, where no food is off limits. And we are thrilled to have you with us for this series, Melanie. And with that, I will turn it over to you.
Oh, thank you, Wendy. Oh, thanks so much. I appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. I see Sandra. Thank you, Cecilia. Thank you so much for participating in this series of presentations. And so what we're going to do for the next 6 weeks, we're going to talk about different strategies that we can utilize to help maintain or lose weight, improve our health parameters, or maybe just take some different steps in our health and lifestyle routines and just, make some minor improvements. So for this Way to Go series, we're going to talk on a variety of topics, and I will walk through all of those in the next couple of slides. And again, I am Melanie Burdick. I am a member of the Healthy Living team at Giant Food. I am one of the Baltimore-based dietitians. And I'll tell you all about our free services at the end of the slideshow today. And definitely after today's presentation, I hope to see you back next week. But if you do have particular questions, anything that you're working on, you can also reach out to me individually, and I will put my information in the chat at the end of the presentation. So let's get started with our Way to Go series. All right, so really the objectives for the next couple of weeks, we're really going to focus on identifying health and wellness goals and develop actions that will help us meet those particular wellness goals. And then we'll talk about meal planning, how to balance our plate, and the USDA dietary guidelines using My Plate. And then really just overall having a better understanding of the different foods that you put into your cart, lifestyle choices like activity, sleep, mindfulness. We're going to cover all of those to really help our overall health and well-being. So we're going to cover a lot of different topics in the next couple of weeks. And just to kind of give you an outline of what to expect in the weeks to come. So tonight we're going to talk about goal setting and planning, and then some tips on balanced eating. And then next week, that'll be, the 31st of January. We're almost done with this month. We'll talk about meal planning on a budget. And then we'll take a virtual store tour and look at different areas of the store to help you find the best items to meet your health and wellness goals. And then we'll talk about mindfulness during week 4, which is such a very important topic, really thinking about slowing down, looking at how, when, and why we eat, and really looking at our eating behaviors and our relationship with food. So that's a great topic. And then, of course, when we're thinking about our health and wellness and our weight status, talk about some physical activity, and one of my favorite topics, sleep, which all plays an important part in our health. And then lastly, in that final week, we'll finish up on February 28th. We'll talk about lifestyle changes, how to sustain those as you go along, and how to keep that motivation going, because we know that it can kind of wax and wane. And so we'll talk on ways that we can keep the momentum going. So just some things to look forward to over the next couple of weeks. All right. So for tonight, we're going to talk about setting goals, and then we'll focus on tips for balanced eating. And then I'll show you some products that you can utilize for your cart when you're shopping that can help you meet any health or wellness goals that you have in the coming year. All right, so did anyone come up with a New Year's resolution this year? If you did, let me know. Let me know how it's going. Or have you tried to do New Year's resolutions in the past? How did that go? Feel free to share. I know many times with that stroke of midnight, when we enter that new year, a lot of us try to take on, new eating and lifestyle patterns and try to improve our eating habits. And often it can be a lot at once. And unfortunately, a lot of people aren't able to maintain those New Year's resolutions. So if you happen to have done one this year, or maybe in the past, let us know in the chat. Eat more veggies, Sandra, that's perfect. And we'll use that example as we're talking about some goals in just a few minutes. So perfect. So if anyone else has any particular things that they're thinking about this new year, let me know. And feel free to throw it into the chat. Now, one of the things we want to think about when we're trying to change our lifestyle habits, we want to think about, is this manageable for me long term? Let's go back and talk about some of those New Year's resolutions. Some people might say, I'm going to give up chocolate, or I'm going to give up carbs, or I'm going to start exercising an hour a day. And normally it goes pretty well for a couple of weeks. Think about how busy the gym can be in the new year. And then it sort of starts to quiet down over those next couple of weeks. A lot of times the New Year's resolutions that we set for ourselves are just a little bit too much. It's really hard to maintain long term. And has anyone ever tried and maybe didn't successfully achieve a goal? Doesn't always make you feel, very accomplished. And it can make us feel bad about ourselves. So what we want to think about, moving forward, whether it's a New Year's resolution or maybe it's just a goal you have for yourself, we can start these on any day of the year. And tonight, I want to talk briefly about SMART goals. So really setting yourself up for success this year and coming years on picking things in your diet, in your lifestyle that you want to focus on. And these are very, very specific because many of us, we might have a resolution of, I'm going to lose 50 pounds next year in 2022. Okay. We got this overarching goal. It's a little overwhelming. So in order to meet that overarching goal, we need to create small goals that can help us chip away and get to that large goal in the long run. So that's what I want everyone to think about tonight. What are some specific goals? And I'm going to use Sandra's example as eating more vegetables. That's perfect. And so when we think about a wellness goal for ourselves, it could be anything, something simple, something that's important to you. So we all could have very different goals, and that's okay. So when we think about a goal for the upcoming year, or maybe just a goal any time of the year, something specific. So I'll use Sandra's goal as vegetables. All right, something very specific. She wants to increase her intake at meals. Now, when we think about goals too, we want it to be measurable. So if I want to eat more vegetables, how am I going to know that I'm meeting that goal? Maybe I'll eat 1 cup of vegetables at a meal, or 2, or maybe I'll make half my plate produce at a meal. It can be any measure that you want it to be. And again, it might be different for you than it might be for someone else. So you want to think about how we can tie a number to this goal. And then we also want it to be attainable. So let's be real. Let's be realistic. I know that, if I'm not a big fan of vegetables, but I know I need to add them into my diet, maybe I'm just going to start doing 1 at a time. I'm going to add 1 new item in a week or every few weeks. I'm going to slowly add it in. That's going to make it more attainable for me because you know yourself. And then we want it to be relevant. We want this to really make an impact on your lifestyle. And then also too, we want to create a goal that's time bound. So it could be over a week, it could be over 3 months, it could be over any certain amount of time. And this is a great way that there's a certain quantifiable amount of time that I'm going to work on this. And then I can always modify and update that goal as I go. So maybe it's over a week. So let's get into a couple of examples. So, all right, so perfect. We're going to take Sandra's example too. So I want to eat more vegetables starting now. And so what I want to do is I want to put some numbers behind that. So maybe it's half plate veggies, or maybe it's a salad with each dinner. Oh, great. Lower my A1C. Perfect. All right. So I'm going to, buy a bag of frozen vegetables and have half plate at each meal. I'll plan to have veggies at each meal that I have, or I'll buy more so I have them ready to go and prepared. And I think it's always good to be realistic. So if you're eating out or you're getting takeout, how can you meet this goal in all these different eating opportunities that you might run into? So whether I'm, packing a meal for work, or maybe I'm going to get a takeout meal, what can I do? Can I get a side of vegetables? Can I get a side salad? How am I going to make this fit? And sometimes it can take a little creativity, a little bit of thought. And sometimes you might say, maybe I went overboard. Maybe this goal was a little bit too much. And that's okay. You can pare it back and start where you feel comfortable. So definitely, so thinking about, okay, I'm going to eat 2 cups of vegetables with each meal, and I'm going to try to strive for this for the next week, the next 7 days. And then you can always reevaluate. All right. And here's another exercise example as well. And then I'm going to talk, I'll talk briefly about, to see someone had a goal for their A1C range. We'll talk about how we can achieve that too. So let's talk about exercise. So a lot of us, and I've been guilty of this too, start with a really, really big goal. And I'm going to say I'm going to go to the gym 7 days a week. And maybe this just doesn't happen because we've got work and other requirements that kind of throw us off course. So what we want to do is really think about our life and what's going to work for us. And what's going to be that minimum that we're going to feel good about. We're going to feel accomplished. I can always strive for more, but there's going to be that goal. So here, the goal is I will work out 2 times per week. And I'm going to do this until February 15th. Okay. So we know that this is a very specific goal. It's measurable 2 times a week. I might even say, is it 30 minutes? Is it 60 minutes? What's going to be that number where you can say, I did it, I met my goal? So we're also going to maybe schedule a day and a time when this would be best for your schedule as well. And then attainable, kind of knowing yourself, taking your gym clothes with you to work, or maybe putting your gym clothes on first thing in the morning when you wake up, and that way you can get your exercise done before the day starts. And then also too, we want to think about being realistic. Maybe I want to do 7 days, but I know that my life is so busy, my kids have practice. So really that 2 days would be good for me. And then let's see how I do with that number. And also some other things as well. We know there's other challenges, costs of things like a gym membership. There's a lot of free resources that we can utilize online and save a few bucks. So again, those are some things to think about when you have that goal. Now, going back to our previous question, so lower my A1C. So definitely what you can do if you're hoping to lower maybe a lab parameter, A1C, cholesterol, blood pressure, what you can do is you can kind of take a subset. Let's take a step back. What are some of the things that might have contributed to those changes in my numbers? Maybe I'm drinking soda, or maybe maybe I could be more active. Pull out 1 or 2 elements of your lifestyle that might be impacting that number and start small. And then that will help slowly impact those glucose levels and see a downward trend. So definitely all of these little goals are going to add up to big accomplishments. So definitely, we want to have some, be strategic when we're thinking about our health and wellness. A lot of us, we've tried to do different things. Maybe it was a different diet, eating pattern, and it worked, or maybe it didn't work for us long term. So we want to be realistic. We want to find things that are going to help us be accomplished at our goal over the long run. And then we also want to try to have that balance. We don't want to do too much at once. We don't want to say we're going to go to the gym for 2 hours and that'll take away from the rest of our day. We want to be realistic. And then slow down. I think a really great place to start, whether you're thinking about your weight, your health, is really just journal about your day, whether it's your feelings, your food intake, or your activity. Putting things down on paper can really help you become more insightful about maybe the lifestyle behaviors that might be impacting your health. And then you can say, well, maybe I'll work on this behavior and then this behavior. Now, does anyone also use any type of activity tracker or apps? I've got so many different apps on my phone. They track everything. This is also another tool that you can use if you're trying to implement some sort of lifestyle change. Or many of our phones have built-in pedometers. So really try to use that tech to your advantage. It can be a really good support system. Now, one other thing I do want to mention, every time we think about our health, a lot of times numbers can come into play. And what I like to think about is, you know what, that's just a number. There are so many things that we can say we feel accomplished about. So if your goal this year is maybe to have a weight change, think about all those little victories that you do. Think about the fact that you drank more water, ate more vegetables, or took that 5-minute walk when you had a few minutes. Write down all those accomplishments because those are far more superior than that number on the scale. So all that, and with that, will give yourself some grace as well. Oh, perfect. Sandra, use a food tracker. Excellent. Super helpful. Really gives you perspective on your lifestyle. I know for me, I use one. And even as a dietitian, sometimes I'm surprised at what comes up on that tracker. So it really helps you get insight. Sort of like when you check your bank account. Once you start looking at your spending habits, then you might start to change, how you spend your money. It's the same thing with your food choices. So really focus on all of those really positive victories that you have. Write them down, put them in a place where you'll see it, and look over it once a day and say, hey, I'm really proud of myself that I did this. You can be your own cheerleader, and that's going to help keep you moving forward. All right. So I just wanted everyone to take a moment, think about what's a goal that I can focus on. If I have something in mind, how can I make it a little bit more quantifiable? And feel free, throw it into the chat. If anything's kind of come into your mind as we've done this discussion, let me know. And if you want to send me any of your goals after today's presentation, absolutely, I'd be happy to help you with any of them. So what is your goal for the upcoming year? All right, we'll keep moving on. Oh, yes. Yes, feel free. Someone raise their hand. Oh, okay. If you have anything, feel free, throw it into the chat. So one thing we want to think about when it comes to our health, all right, Ken, lose 26 pounds. All right, so perfect. So that's actually a great example. So how long, over what time span do you want to lose that 26 pounds? Is it in the next year, 6 months? Think about that time frame. And what you can also do, if that feels like a lot at once, step it back. Maybe just focus on the first 5 pounds over a certain time frame. Perfect. All right. Perfect. That's awesome. 12 months. All right. Perfect. 20 pounds in 6 months, walking 3 times a week, drink more water. Excellent. Yeah. So what you can do is you can take that big goal and you can kind of chip it down a little bit and say, hey, I'm going to strive for this during the first quarter of the year. I'm going to strive for this the second quarter and see how it goes. And as you can go through that process, that can give you time to sort of reshape any of those goals and see what's working and what's not working. So again, in order to get to that 26-pound weight loss, what are we going to do? Is it going to be maybe changing our beverage choices, our eating choices, our portion sizes, our activity level? Maybe it's sleep. Maybe it's a combination of things. And that's a great thing about SMART goals. Even just doing one little change, that's going to have a huge, huge impact. So don't feel like you have to accomplish everything overnight. Really, a 100-calorie change a day, that can lead up to 10 pounds in a year. So just one small little change. Now, one thing we want to think about too, as we're, going through our lifestyle review, kind of doing some analysis, we want to think about our plate. What type of things are we eating? Are we getting all those different food groups? Now, all of us have very different food choices, and that's totally fine. We want to make sure that we're getting all those different nutrients. One, to help minimize any deficiencies, but also help prevent any chronic disease risks. Perfect. Mary, that's wonderful. Do a 10-minute workout 2 times a week until February 12th. Awesome. That's perfect. That's perfect. So that's great. I'm glad that everyone has some of those goals that they're thinking about. And the size of the plate would be about a 9-inch salad size plate. So even there, even if your plates are quite large, I know some of mine are, even just using a smaller dinner plate as a new goal for the year can make a huge difference. So using a salad size plate. And when we think about our plate, you can use the USDA My Plate as a rough guide for portions and how to balance your meals. Now, you don't have to have all of these food groups at one meal. That can be a little bit much. Generally, you want to aim for about 3 different food groups at a meal. But what we want to think about are those portion sizes. So we can see here that a quarter of the plate should be grains. Okay, now I grew up in a house where we had lots of pasta, lots of rice. And I can tell you the pasta was not a quarter of our plate. It was the whole plate. So one of the things that using the My Plate can help us do is just cut down on those portions. We still get our favorite foods, we're just having a little bit less. And then also too, we want to fill up half plate with produce, fresh, frozen, or canned. We'll talk about some great items in the next couple of slides. And then also some sort of protein. Protein's great because it fills you up, helps with satiety, and that can help with the amount of calories that you take in throughout the day. So, and if you're working on any kind of new exercise routine, getting plenty of protein is going to help with every cell in your body and help with muscle growth and repair. So there's lots of different options out there. There's plant and there's animal based. There's also dairy sources, and we're going to talk about some of those in a little bit too. So think about what your plate generally looks like. Is it maybe heavier in one food group? Is one food group missing? How could you add in one of those in the next couple of meals that you have? So I love this. It's sort of like a mental image. You can put it in the back of your mind. So when you're eating out, you're making dinner, you can say, okay, what am I missing? Oh, I need some vegetables. Oh, I need some type of whole grain. All right, so let's dig a little bit more into each of these areas of the plate too. So it sounded like veggies were a popular one. Perfect. And the more vegetables that we have on our plate, we get more volume. That means less calories overall. If we put more broccoli on our plate, well, there's less room for that pasta or any decadent item. So when you think about your fruits and vegetables, if this is a big goal for you this year, we want to aim for half plate produce in each meal if we can do it. Now, sometimes that doesn't always happen. Maybe, for breakfast, maybe you had a piece of fruit and you weren't able to have a lot of produce. That's okay. You can use those if you need to add in another vegetable. You can enjoy that at your next snack or your next meal. So there is that flexibility. But half plate produce is just an easy one to remember. And so that's about 2 cups of fruit. That's the recommended minimum, and about 2.5 cups of veggies a day. So if you have an apple and a banana, that's about 2 cups of vegetables. And if you have a big salad, that might be 2 to 3 cups of vegetables. Now, we want to make sure we get lots of color and variety. And I think this is nice, especially when it's dark and dreary. The sun needs to come out in the wintertime. Having that pop of color gives so much pizzazz. So think about the rainbow. And this could also be another goal for yourself this year. Maybe it's to try a new vegetable every week, or maybe to try a new vegetable recipe, whatever it might be. But try to get all those different colors. And you notice like there's a lot of things that maybe we missed out on before. I know generally people like to choose maybe maybe the same few items every time. Try to stretch it and try something new in the produce department every week. Now, fresh, frozen, and canned are also great options. So that's another area where we have lots of questions. Whatever works for you, your budget, your preferences, your household, Fresh, frozen, or canned produce items are any way that works for you. That way you can get them on your plate. So whatever you prefer, that's perfect. You can keep on doing that. All right, and I just wanted to highlight a couple of things here. When we talk about different types of veggies, well, how does this translate when we're shopping? So there's a lot of easy ways that we can make veggies very easy for our meals. So we can think about maybe using some of the pre-cut. Here we have the zucchini fries. I just bought some spiralized zucchini the other day, or cauliflower rice. These are prepped, ready to go. All I have to do is put them on a cookie sheet. So that's a pretty easy way to add veggies to my meal. I could also pick up the frozen vegetables. These are great. The stir fry blend, the rice cauliflower. I can saute these. I can put them in the oven. I could roast them, and I've got a great meal. Other things too, like the Taylor Farms, the salad blends. These are a go-to in my house, and that's an easy way. I know that if I have these for dinner, then I'm going to get a good amount of veggies at that meal. Also, too, you can use your microwavable options too, like the Nourish bowls or the steamed red potatoes, or the Arc Foods variety as well. It's a vegan macaroni or mac and cheese, so to speak. So it's actually cauliflower and cashews for the creamy cheese. So lots of things that you can look for. Now, if you're also going to maybe a small get together, what I love are the prep to veggies or the fruit trays. That way you always have something that's healthy at that get together. So lots of different options. So maybe think about, what is a new vegetable product that I could buy this week? Maybe I'll add another bag of frozen vegetables, or maybe I'll add in a salad kit. Easy as that. Now, another area that we want to think about are the different types of grains and the carbohydrates in our diet. Now, these are pretty plentiful. A big chunk of our calories actually is dedicated to carbohydrates, so they add up pretty quickly in our diet. But when we think about the My Plate, we want to make sure that we're getting sources of carbohydrate in our meal, but we want to be careful with that portion size. So like I mentioned earlier, growing up, we would have a huge pot of spaghetti, and that would be a huge plate of pasta. Well, that portion was a little bit much. So what we want to think about is just paring down those different starches. And if we can, we want to aim for complex carbohydrates or whole grains if we can do it, because these will still give you that pasta goodness, but also more fiber and protein as compared to enriched flour product. So things like oatmeal, popcorn, whole wheat bread, these are great items. Now, another thing you can do when you're shopping, take a look at the products. Maybe you can look in your pantry if you have a moment. See if you have any products that have that whole grain council stamp on it. This is another great tool for your shopping toolbox. It indicates if that product has some whole grain or if all the grains in the product are whole. Whole grains are going to keep you much more content, more satisfied between meals, and it will also help with your blood sugar, your GI health, help with constipation, help you meet that fiber goal, and help with your heart health. So something as easy as switching your breakfast cereal for maybe something such as maybe something low in fiber, maybe it's like corn flakes or Rice Krispies, switching it to an oatmeal. Maybe that's a goal for yourself right there. That can make a huge difference in how you feel and your appetite throughout the day. So think about all those different types of whole grains that you could put into your cart. And here's some examples. So there's a lot of whole grain options when you're shopping. Now, you can look for that whole grain council stamp. You can also look on the ingredient list and see if the word whole grain or whole wheat appears first in those ingredients. If you see that, that's a good indication that product contains 100% whole wheat or a significant amount of whole wheat. And that means more fiber and protein. Another little trick that you can do, take a look at that nutrition facts label. If it has 3 grams of fiber or more per serving, that's a really good choice, and you're going to get more nutrients there as well. So if you're a carb fan or a bread or a pasta fan, there are lots of yummy items that are available that can help you meet your food preferences, but also your wellness goals. So things like the Dave's Killer Bread. If you love to do toast or sandwiches, This variety has fiber and protein, has nuts and seeds for some crunch, or one of my favorites, Triscuits. One of my go-tos since childhood is a whole wheat option. So something as simple as switching from maybe cracker that has refined flour, maybe it's like a saltine cracker, to a Triscuit variety. That's a great way to boost your protein and fiber. Also, even your own wraps, your tortilla wraps, or the different types of pasta that are available. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I love to do a snack of oatmeal in the afternoon on like a cold day in the winter. That's perfect. That would be a great little snack that can hold you to your next meal. Absolutely. So there's lots of different things that you'll see for those whole grain options. Now, another one I want to point out too, if you're a pancake or a muffin fan, the Kodiak cake varieties, they are made with whole grain and added protein. So they're really tasty, but they'll keep you full. So there's lots of wonderful, nutritious, tasty items that are available in store. So to help you fill that quarter of your plate, but get more nutritional bang for your buck. All right. And I mentioned protein earlier, and sometimes we might forget about our different protein sources in our diet. I know often for me, sometimes I might have a meal that maybe is more carbohydrate heavy, and I feel that I'm not as satisfied when I compare that to a meal where I have more protein. So this can be another area to think about. Think about the amount of protein that you're getting in each of your meals. People, on average, women should have about 46 grams a day and men about 56. So that can give you an idea of how much you might be getting if you compare that to your typical intake. So we want to think about our plate, that last quarter of protein. So protein keeps you full. It can help with your blood sugar, slows down digestion. That's way easier on your blood sugar levels if you're managing diabetes. And there are a lot of different options. There's animal-based chicken, fish, turkey, and beef, pork, the things that we're used to. But there's also a lot of plant-based proteins that are really booming right now. So lentils, quinoa, beans, tofu. If you have any favorites, put it into the chat. Let me know. What are some of your go-to proteins? There's lots of items that can help you meet those protein goals. Also things like plant-based milk, soy, cashew milk. These are a lot of great options that can help you meet those protein needs. So definitely adding a little bit of protein to each meal or snack can really make a difference in how you feel and your appetite throughout the day. And here are some fun options. So if anyone has any favorites, throw it into the chat. But some things that you can look for if you're thinking about adding some different foods or protein sources. Things like our dairy department, like the drinkable Greek yogurt or the Chobani plain non-fat Greek yogurt, a wonderful source of good probiotics for your gut health, and some good protein and carbohydrates for energy. Also, there's lots of fun things in the plant-based category. So you may have seen these on the shelf. We have Angus beef and isolated pea protein patty. So we're getting a combination of plant and animal-based protein. We're also seeing that trend for lots of plant-based burgers like Beyond or Impossible Burger. There's truly something for everyone. And then also, if you are interested, there's also Good Catch, which has a fish-free tuna. It's made from pea protein. So there's a lot of fun options available. Now, if you want to stick to the original, you could also do the tuna or the salmon. So again, lots of ways that you can have tasty snacks and meals, but meet those nutritional needs. And really, even something as simple as adding a can of beans to your bagged salad is a great way to boost your fiber and your protein. And with that, you can have a real satisfying meal. So lots of great things that you can look for. All right. Do we have any water drinkers here? Let me know if you're a water drinker, or maybe this is a goal for yourself in the new year. So this is an area I know many people have a hard time with, especially in the winter time, because we're not sweating as much, we're not out in the heat, but staying hydrated is a really important goal for your overall health. And this can help with weight management as well. Your body is over 50% water. And so we lose fluid throughout the day every time we go to the bathroom, from sweating, even from breathing. And so, in order to keep our body running at that optimal level, we want to make sure that we're rehydrating it to that optimal level. And so, another area that many people focus on if they're starting out in a wellness journey, you take a look at their water consumption and also the other types of beverages that they might be having. So, things like sweetened tea or coffee beverages or soda, or any other type of beverage that has added calories. This can be a good place to start if you're looking at ways to maybe shave down those additional calories in your diet. So ideally, we want to focus on getting water as our first choice and really try to minimize those liquid calories. Now, what's really fascinating too is that liquid calories don't register with our brain like food does. So, for instance, let's say I had a large soda earlier today. Maybe it was my afternoon snack. Maybe that soda was 300 calories. When I drink that, my brain doesn't know that I'm consuming 300 calories. There's not a little buzzer that goes off and says, "Hey, Melanie, you're full." Now, if I had a food source that was 300 calories, my brain is going to register that. And so I might be more than likely to eat less after having that snack. So, because your brain doesn't register those calories, this is where these calories can sneak in pretty quickly. So, this is a great area to think about in your diet and lifestyle. Am I ready to maybe decrease my liquid beverage or my liquid calorie consumption? And I have to say that for many of the clients and customers I worked with in the past, this was a common area. And when they decided that they needed to change this, once they did, they saw huge changes in their health and wellness. They saw changes in their glucose levels, their A1C, their weight, and even their energy level. So something as simple as, swapping out that can of soda for water every day really made a huge impact on their health. So think about different ways that you can get that hydration in. Hot tea, it could be even seltzer or carbonated water, or like here we have an infused water combination. How much water or liquid a day? So there's a couple of different calculations for this. So this is a great question. Normally we hear 8 glasses a day, which really doesn't have any scientific backing. So the general rule would be about 9 8-ounce glasses for women and about 11 8-ounce glasses for men. That's the general rule. Now, there's also some other calculations that you can do. If you say you're on a 2,000 calorie diet, then you want to have about equivalent number of milliliters as the number of calories that you're consuming. So if I'm on a 2,000 calorie diet, I want to drink about 2,000 milliliters or about 2 liters of fluid a day. If you're exercising or maybe you live in a warmer climate, we need to drink more to help make up for those losses. So if you're saying, all right, well, maybe I need to increase my food consumption, maybe you're taking a sip of water right now as we're chatting, what you can do is look at the number of glasses that you drink per day and maybe just say, okay, maybe I drink 4 glasses of water. Can I slowly increase to 4.5, 5, and wean into it, kind of just ease into it. And that way it's much easier on your system. Now, another indication that you need fluid, if your urine is yellow or very concentrated, that's a good sign that we need to drink some water. So try to aim for at least those 8 to 9 cups of water a day, if not more. Good question. Okay. So as we wrap up today, just some take home messages when you think about, going on a wellness journey. And one of the things we want to think about is doing things that we can do. Everyone is very different. Don't feel like you have to run a marathon if you have, if your knees are a little sore. I know for me, that's not something I would want to strive to do because I know it would be harder. So think about things that you can do. If I want to get active, I don't necessarily have to run. I could just walk. I could try something new. I could expand my horizons when it comes to my food choices. And What's really interesting is that things don't happen overnight. It takes a bit of time. Many of our lifestyle choices and habits come from years and years and years of repetition. And so many of these behaviors take a little bit of time to modify and change to a new normal. So it's a process and it's one step at a time. So really focus on what's going to be the most manageable and attainable area for you when it comes to your wellness goals. And then think about how to journal. Think about logging your information, writing down every walk that you take. Put a little checkbox down on your journal or on your calendar to indicate that you did that exercise for the day. Seeing those reminders or those notes or those checks really can help you say, hey, you know what? I did it. I can pat myself on the back, and it makes me want to strive to do more. So really, taking one step at a time. Now, I did want to highlight some of the other services that we have available at Giant. There's a lot of different things that are available that can really support you as you go on a wellness journey. So, of course, our team, all of our services are free. So we do consultations or virtual consults or phone consultations. We also have classes, and we have our Healthy Living by Giant Facebook group. So you can go ahead if you'd like, you can scan these QR codes. You can just hold up your camera option on your phone. You can scan these and it'll take you right to that web page. So the Facebook page is a great resource for tips and tricks from our whole nutrition team. And then, of course, we have our Healthy Living by Giant podcast. So a wonderful library, 100 episodes on all different types of topics, whether it's weight management, maybe it's heart health, diabetes management, or maybe it's just new items that are in the store. All of these can really help you find the things that meet your needs. So definitely some wonderful resources that are right at your fingertips. Oh, we got a question. Oh, this is a great question. Yes, coffee and tea. Yes, it will count towards your fluid consumption. Now, oftentimes people say that coffee is dehydrating. It will still count towards your fluid intake. What I encourage people to do, if you have a cup of coffee, maybe just have a glass of water following that. But if you're a hot tea drinker, unsweetened hot tea, that would be perfect. I have mine right here. That would be a nice way to stay warm, but also meet your fluid needs during the cold weather. Great question. And you can also get fluid from your fruits and vegetables. So if you have something like celery or in the summertime, watermelon, it has a very high water percentage. Watermelon's about 93% water. So having those fruits and vegetables will also add to your water consumption for the day. So another reason to have those veggies. Oh, yes. So green tea. So all your different types of teas, green tea, black tea, are wonderful sources of antioxidants. And oftentimes we forget that antioxidants are found in lots of different products. So of course, green tea, those antioxidants can help with those free radicals and they also contain phytonutrients, which are disease fighters. So absolutely, if you like to enjoy your green tea, a wonderful wealth of nutrients and a good source of hydration. So that's a great question. I've been on a tea kick this cold weather. So wonderful. Great question. Great. Yes, green tea. There's so many different varieties. And there's a lot of there's actually some studies about green tea extract, about that helping with weight loss. That's actually not a validated tool for weight loss. So I would not worry about those green tea extracts, but just focus on that tea, your favorite green tea. Enjoy that for hydration. It's also a great way to relax. My one caution would be if it contains caffeine or if it's decaffeinated, that can impact our sleep too. But absolutely, you can enjoy that tea. Enjoy a cup for me. Great. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone spending some time with me this evening. I appreciate everyone's, uh, we got another chat here. Great. Everyone's chat and interaction in the chat box. That's great. So I really appreciate your time, and I'll stay on for another minute or so if anyone has any last questions. But with that, I'll turn it back over to Wendy.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, Melanie, for this very informative first session. I've included a link to our survey in the chat box below. We value your feedback. And we'll see you next Monday, same day, same time for session 2.
Yeah, we'll talk about meal planning. Yes.
Great.
Great.
We'll wait for a few minutes if anyone has any other questions.
Sure. And I'm also will put in here, I will put in my email address. If anyone has any questions, if there's anything I can assist them with, you can feel free to email me. Put that in the chat. I'd be happy to assist. Oh, well, great. I appreciate everyone coming out tonight. Stay warm.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Ken. Have a good one.